Shalom Israel. Shalom. Akyam and Akwathyam. We are the ISUPK, started out of 125th Street, 1 West Harlem, New York, under the command of General Yohana, and we teach that Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians are the true Hebrew Israelites of the Bible. First, let me say Salakia for our late start. We'll go through a few announcements, then we'll go on straight into the class. Monday night, we've got a lot of things going on in the school, a lot of classes. So Monday night, we have the history class with Captain Parashia. Tuesday night, we have the Brotherhood, Sisterhood class with Officer Rabban, Officer Tazapawan. Wednesday night, we have the law class with Officer Dungabar and me, Officer Ariala. Thursday night, we have the scripture breakdown class with Officer Karathia. Friday night, we have the Lashawan Kodash class, which is the Most High's Holy Tongue, the ancient Hebrew, which is taught by Officer Rabban. All classes are live 7 till 9. We've got 3 live classes in the school, Monday, Wednesday and Thursday. Tuesday and Friday classes are live from Manchester. Friday night, after the Lashawan Kodash class, we've got on the Ends radio show with Officer Dungabar and Officer Karathia. That is broadcasted live in the school. You can catch all the classes live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Classes start live from 7 till 9. On the Ends is from 9 till 11. Saturday morning, we have the Sabbath service in the school from 10 to 11. Streamed live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Then from 12 midday till 5 p.m., we hold street camp every Sabbath, every Saturday, alternate weeks. 1 week in Birmingham City Centre, the next week in London Central, Piccadilly. That's what we've got going on in school. That's the classes. This is the Wednesday night law class. The topic tonight is the heading of tonight's class. The topic is we measure our culture on street talk and vain traditions. And just to debrief everybody on what that means, we measure our culture on street talk and vain traditions. Well, what is our culture? Our culture is who we are and how we live. And we are the Hebrew Israelites, Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, God's chosen people according to the Bible, Deuteronomy 7 and 6. And you can read about us all in the curses. If you need to identify who we are as a people and as a nation, you can read the curses in the 28th chapter of the book of Deuteronomy from verse 16 to 68, and compare the verses, compare the curses to your life, and you will see how relevant they are to your life, because these curses have been recorded about us. It is what's happened to us. They were prophecies that would come to pass if we were disobedient and broke our covenant with the Most High God. So tonight's class is we measure our culture on street talk and vain traditions. Now, what is that? What is street talk? Well, the Benjamites talk patois. The Levites, the Manasseites, the Ephraimites, the the Native Americans, the majority of the Gadites, the Reubenites, we talk some form of patois or Creole, whether it's French Creole, Spanish Creole. Even our beloved Native Americans speak some kind of street slang. It's different to what our ancestors speak, which was ancient Paleo Hebrew and the Assyrian Hebrew. Okay, so tonight, this is what we're going to touch on tonight, is why we measure our so-called blackness. So our culture is our blackness, our nativeness, our Hispanicness, our so-called blackness, our so-called Hispanicness, and our so-called nativeness. Why do we measure our culture and our traditions on vain things like how good you can cook Benjamite food, or how good you can cook Native American food, or how good you can cook so-called Hispanic food, tacos, tortillas, ackee and saltfish, jerk chicken, ital soup. This is how, and do you know something? I remember when I was at school, we had a thing. We used to call each other coconuts, bounties, chalk ices for some of the young Israelite brothers and sisters that couldn't speak good patois or Creole or street talk. Okay, the fam gang talk. Yeah. And we used to run each other over these ridiculous, bizarre, vain things, these vain traditions that we adopted and picked up, not just in slavery, after slavery. Okay, after the abolishment of slavery in 1865, we've picked up these vain traditions, and it's living in Babylon, the modern day Babylon. This is where we've inherited these vain traditions. Now imagine for 1 minute, instead of measuring our blackness, our so-called Hispanicness, our so-called nativeness on the oracles of the Most High God, how we know ourselves, you blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, how well we know our records that were recorded by Moses and the prophets. If we measured our culture on this alone, how we know these laws, statutes, and commandments recorded in the Torah, instead of these vain traditions and how good you can speak patois, or how good you can cook ackee and saltfish, it's ridiculous. Salaki Adawan, if we start off with Romans 3:20. So what we've got to understand is measuring our culture, measuring our so-called blackness, our so-called Hispanicness, our so-called nativeness on things like street talk and vain traditions. That is not what's going to hold us in good stead, Israel. That is not what is going to help us keep these laws, statutes, and commandments. That's not what is going to help us seek and find salvation. Okay? We've already been redeemed. We're in our grace period. This is the time to kick our vain traditions and our fake culture to the curb that we've adopted in Babylon, in the new era of Babylon. It's time to get rid of these vain traditions. We measure our culture on how good we speak patois or cook jerk chicken. It's ridiculous. How about concentrating on studying? Getting down to 394 Lodge Road, into the ISUPK under the command of General Yohanna, the home of the truth, and learn these laws, statutes, and commandments that were recorded by the prophet Moses. For us, for our people, the Hebrew Israelites, you black, Hispanics, and Native Indians. Instead, we want to measure our blackness or how well we know ourselves on how good we can talk street talk or patois or cook tortillas, and it's not accurate. It's not accurate, Israel, and it's not correct, and it's not what's going to save you. You think the Most High God cares on how good you speak Creole? You think the Most High God cares how good you can cook rice and peas? You think the Most High God cares how well you speak patois? And you think the Most High God cares how well you make tacos? Do you see that other one? The Most High God doesn't care about these things. You vain blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians stuck up in the Christian church, the Islamic mosque, in Rastafarian doctrine, and all these denominations and religions you've adopted. You care. The Most High God care, and his only begotten Son doesn't care. Our King, Hamashiach Yahushai. Jesus Christ, who the world knows him as. That's not his name. In the Hebrew, his name is Hamashiach Yahushai. Now it's full time now, Israel, you blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. You stop relying on your vain traditions. And you start relying on the oracles of the Most High God. Because there's nothing else in this kingdom that is going to save you. There's nothing else. Our beloved, there's nothing else that's going to save you. Romans 3:20, because without the law, we don't know right from wrong. Speaking patois is not going to teach you. Knowing how to speak good patois is not going to teach you right from wrong, but these laws will. Knowing how to cook jerk chicken, tacos, tortillas is not going to teach you right from wrong. The law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High God will. Okay, so you've got to remember, most of our parents and grandparents, that was part of the Windrush and came to Europe and the Northern Kingdom, the 9 tribes of the Northern Kingdom, they've got their story as well. But our story in the UK, our parents came here in the 60s and they came here believing that it was part of their natural culture to cook ackee and saltfish, Jamaica's national dish. And Native Indians, parents, the original generation cooking tacos, a lot of thick bread, okay? The Hispanic, so-called Hispanics, tortillas. But the first generation, okay, in the UK, especially what we've bore witness to, first and second generation, we've inherited it as a vain tradition, okay? Without thinking, we're God's chosen people. This is what we should be inheriting, not the vanity of our parents that didn't know any better, or our grandparents. And we've grown up in houses listening to our parents speak patois, Creole, and we believe that this is what we should base our blackness on, our Hispanicness on, our so-called nativeness on, where this is what we should base our true traditions and cultures on. This, the Holy Bible, the oracles of the Most High God, King James Version 1611. This alone is what we should be basing our traditions and culture on, how well we know ourselves. Because while we're on road talking patois and Creole and street talk, we still don't know who we are, Israel. Imagine that. We're laughing at our brothers and sisters because they can't speak or don't speak patois or choose not to speak patois. They was raised in the UK. They was raised in the US. And they speak English like we all do. But some of us choose to speak patois and copy our grandparents, copy our parents. But we measure our culture on this. We're so destroyed, we've begun to measure our culture on this. You see that other one? We measure our culture on this, and it's ridiculous because this is not what's going to save us. We should be measuring our culture on how well we know this book. And that alone. If you don't study this book and know this book, you're right. Your birthright. This book is your birthright. These laws are your inheritance, you blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. And if you don't know this, how could you possibly know yourself? I don't care how much patois you speak, how much Famgyang talk you speak, how much Creole you speak, how much street talk you speak. You're that same chalk eyes that we used to mock at school if you do not know the oracles of the Most High God. If you do not know you're a Hebrew Israelite, if you're stuck up in that Christian church, if you're stuck up in that Islamic mosque, if you're stuck up in Rastafarian doctrine, and all the denominations, the crazy denominations in Christianity. How the hell do you know yourself? You are an Uncle Tom, so to speak. You're a chalk ice. If you don't know this Bible, you do not know yourself. You can speak patois and cook ackee and saltfish, tortillas, tacos every goddamn day of your life. It means absolutely nothing to the Most High God, and it means absolutely nothing to Hamashiach Yahushai, the Son of Man, our Lord and Savior, aka Jesus Christ, our King. Shalom, Orlando Velez. Okay, so let's get that first precept. Romans 3:20. Read that.
The book of Romans, chapter 3 and verse 20.
Babakasha.
Therefore, by the deeds of the law, there shall no flesh be justified in his sight.
Read that again.
Therefore, by the deeds of the law, there shall no flesh be justified in his sight.
Therefore, by the deeds of the law, there will be no what?
No flesh be justified in his sight.
No flesh will be justified in his sight. So without the law, we don't know right from wrong, do we? And where do we find the law? In the oracles of the Most High God, the first 5 books, the Torah. This is where we find the law, okay? We measure our blackness, our so-called blackness, our so-called nativeness, our so-called Hispanicness on vain traditions, things that mean absolutely nothing to God. And when you read this precept in Romans chapter 3, verse 20, you should get a good understanding of what is required of you, what you should be doing, you blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. And that's leaving that Christian church and getting down here to 394 Lodge Road and learning these laws, statutes, and commandments. Read that again for me, Baba Kashar.
Romans chapter 3, verse 20. Therefore, by the deeds of the law, there shall no flesh be justified in his sight.
No flesh will be justified in his sight. In whose sight? Who are we talking about here, other one? In whose sight? The Most High, in his sight. No flesh will be justified. No flesh be justified in his sight. You must be keeping these laws, statutes, and commandments. And we're not going off. This is a law class. So this is relevant to the topic, okay? If you're not keeping these laws, statutes, and commandments, you might as well be invisible to the Most High God. You're going to be recognized, but not how you want to. Not how you think you are up in that Christian church, banging that tambourine away. You're not going to be recognized by the Most High God. Okay? He's not interested in how well, in how good your Creole is, your French Creole, your Spanish Creole. He doesn't care how good your patois is. He cares whether you're keeping these laws, statutes, and commandments. That's what the Most High God cares about. He doesn't care about your vain traditions, Israel. Read that again, Baba Kashar.
The book of Romans chapter 3, verse 20. Therefore, by the deeds of the law, there shall no flesh be justified in his sight. For by the law is the knowledge of sin.
Salakia. Barak Ya Allah says it's tortillas, not tortillos. Salakia. Salakia. So tortillas. My pronunciation, my English pronunciation. Salakia, forgive me for that. So read that again for me, Baba Kashar, the one.
Therefore, by the deeds of the law, there shall no flesh be justified in his sight. For by the law is the knowledge of sin.
By the law is the knowledge of sin. So without the law, we don't know right from wrong. Right. So how do we know right from wrong? Because we speak the best patois. We speak patois like our grandparents did. We speak patois like our uncle and auntie did. They came from Jamaica in 63. Because we cook tortillas as good as our Issachar grandparents did. in the 50s, 60s, 70s. The Most High doesn't care about that. You see that? He doesn't give a damn. He doesn't give a damn unless you are keeping your sworn oath. Unless you are keeping these laws, statutes, and commandments. And in the church, you can't do that. In the mosque, you can't do that. And in all these other religions, you cannot do that. Drop that and get me Ephesians 5 and 17. Baba Kashar, other one. Because it's full time now that we realize who we are. Okay? This truth has been pushed in this Babylonian system since 1969. And you can still get this same One West doctrine from 1969 right here in the home of the truth, in the ISUPK under the command of General Yohana. And I don't know what we're waiting for, Israel, you blacks, Hispanics, and native Indians. Do you understand? Stop measuring our culture on your vain traditions, on your ridiculous ability to talk street talk, to cook foods that not necessarily holy foods. We've got a dietary law. How about coming to the ISUPK under the command of General Yohana and learning the dietary laws? Okay? And stop eating your goddamn curry shrimp and crab and lobster that you think is black or native or Hispanic because you can curry something up and cook it. The Most High God don't care about that. He doesn't give a damn about that. Justin Welsh, is this that same brother? Other one. Question for the reader, Jeremiah 39. Break that down. Okay, we'll have a look, Justin. Justin, we'll have a look. Not right now. That we'll give me a few minutes. We'll get back to you. Ephesians 5 and 17.
The book of Ephesians, chapter 5 and verse 17. Wherefore, be ye not unwise.
Therefore, what?
Be ye not unwise.
Therefore, don't be ignorant, Israel. Don't be telling don't be telling your brother and sister who speak better English than you that you're blacker than them. You're more Hispanic than them. You're more native than them because they speak English and you can speak Patois or Creole or native. Don't be telling them that nonsense, because guess what, you blacks, Hispanics, and native Indians? You're the goddamn chalk ice, not them. Or you're as bad as them. You don't speak Hebrew. That's your language. Native is not your language. You see that other one? Hispanic is not your language. No matter how street your Spanish is, it is not your language, Israel. Patois is not your language. West Indian Patois, Jamaica, Antiguan, Barbadian, Trinidadian. It doesn't matter what island you come from. You have your own Patois, and it is not of the Most High God. You have a language, a mother tongue, an ancient holy tongue. It's called Lashawan Kwadash. That's what you should be learning. That's what you should be teaching your brother and your sister, that you're mocking and telling them they're a chalk ice, they're a bounty, they're a coconut, they're an Uncle Tom, because they speak English and better English than you. And you want to tell them, look in their face and tell them they're an Uncle Tom because they sound like a white boy when they open their mouth. That's just madness. That's just madness, and it's not in the oracles of the Most High God. But what it is our traditions and our culture, which are not vain. What is the law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High God, which are not vain. How about trying to learn that? The Lashawan Kodash, your inheritance, your original language. How about that? Read on, other one.
Wherefore, be ye not unwise, but understanding what the will of the Lord is.
Read that again.
Wherefore, be ye not unwise, but understanding what the will of the Lord is.
Be thee not unwise, but of understanding of what?
In what the will of the Lord is.
In what the will of the law is. And what is the will of the law? What is the will of the Lord, Salakia? The will of the Lord is keeping covenant, keeping your vow, your oath with the Most High God. And by doing that, you have to uphold your contractual agreement that our forefathers made with the Most High God. And that is keeping these laws, statutes, and commandments. So let's see do you want to go to Jeremiah 30:9 and answer Justine Welsh's question? I'm gonna let you answer his question, Officer Dungabar, because I think he's aiming it at you, to be honest, sir. Okay, do you want me to get that? Jeremiah is question. What's your question, Justin Welsh? He just wants a breakdown of Jeremiah 30:9. Okay. The book of Jeremiah, chapter 30, verse 9. But they shall serve the Lord their God, and David their king, whom I will raise up unto them.
So, and what's his question?
He just wants a breakdown of 30 and 9, Jeremiah 30 and 9.
All right,
that's it. He's typed it in again. He just wants a breakdown. Let me read it again. Salakia. I don't know. The book of Jeremiah, chapter 30, verse 9. Now, hold on, audience. We're just going off topic for 2 quick, short minutes. Okay, this is a question from the streamline that's been typed in on the streamline, on the StreamYard, Salakia. Okay, and the question comes from Justin Welsh, and it's in Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 9. And his question is, he wants a breakdown of this precept, this verse. Okay, and it reads, but they shall serve the Lord God, and David their king, whom I will raise up unto them.
And what's his question?
He just wants a breakdown of that other one.
All right, well, it's Justin Welsh is a brother that believes that King David is still king. So when he reads scriptures here where it says King David shall be their king, he don't understand that Christ sits on the throne of King David. When it says King David shall be their king, he's speaking about Christ. Why? Because Christ sits on the throne of King David. King David's throne was what? A unified throne. So when you read the one in Ezekiel where it goes, no longer shall there be 2 kingdoms, get the one in Ezekiel where it says, no longer shall there be 2 kingdoms. You know which one I'm on about, right?
Ezekiel,
is that in Ezekiel?
What chapter is that?
Hold on, let me find it. It might be 37 somewhere.
Yeah, it is 37.
37. So go to Ezekiel 37 and let me give him the understanding, because the brother believes King David is still king when King David died years ago, man. The Bible says there's no end to his kingdom, and King David's kingdom had an end, man. How do you know it had an end? Why? Because after King David with Solomon, the kingdom was split in 2, and Israel lost the kingdom, and Christ is coming back to sit on his father's throne, who is David, man. He's a descendant of David, and that's what it says. David, their king, is talking about Christ.
Yeah, what verse is it in?
It might be Ezekiel 37 somewhere.
Yeah, I thought it was 5.
It's like King James is the most famous king in Scotland, so people will say, yeah, King James' throne.
Just find a verse there, otherwise. I thought it was 5. I thought it was 5, but it's not. Says the Lord God.
Well, it's the brother don't understand the Bible, so that's the issue he's having. Hold on, let me find it. Try Ezekiel 37 and 16.
16. Moreover, the Son of Man, yeah, it is 16. I'll start at 15. Okay, the book of Ezekiel, chapter 37, verse 15. The word of the Lord came again unto me, saying, moreover, the Son of Man, take thee one stick and write upon it for Judah and for the children of Israel, his companions.
Why did they take one stick? Because before at this time, there was 2 sticks. Why? Because the kingdoms were split. The southern kingdom and the northern kingdom was split under King Solomon. So we became 2 kingdoms. Now this is Ezekiel saying, put these brothers back together. Now the kingdom wasn't split in David's time. Why? Because it was split in Solomon's time. So I can go ahead and rewind that one.
God one can. Then take another stick and write upon it, for and all the stick of Ephraim, and for all the house of Israel, his companions.
Hold on, let me find the exact part of that one. Yeah, go to verse Now read verse 20. Read down from verse 20 actually.
Khan, verse 20. And the sticks whereon thou writest shall be in thine hand before their eyes. Khan. And say unto them, thus saith the Lord God, behold, I will take the children of Israel from among the heathen.
So now what is this talking about? Was David alive in the time of Ezekiel? Read on.
Khan. Whither they gone? Salakia, whither they be gone? And will gather them on every side and bring them into their own land.
And bring them where?
And bring them into their own land.
At the time of David, these brothers was already in the land, so clearly this ain't talking about King David. Read on.
Khan. And I will make them one nation in the land.
Wait, I will do what?
And I will make them one nation in the land.
Why is this going to make them one nation? Why? Because the kingdom was split at this stage, and this is letting you know it's going to make them one nation in the land. Go ahead.
Khan. Upon the mountains of Israel.
Upon the mountains of Israel, go ahead.
And one king shall be king to them all.
And what?
And one king shall be king to them all.
And one king shall be king to them all. You know why? Because the Ephraim had a king and Judah had a king. Now it's letting you know one king is going to be king of them all. And David had what? A unified kingdom. And this is letting you know that Christ is going to have a unified kingdom with one king. Because in the time after Solomon, there was two kings. This is letting you know there's going to be one king. Go ahead.
Khan. And they shall be no more two nations.
And they what?
And they shall be no more two nations.
How can this be talking about King David if King David was dead at this time? And King David had passed away long before this. So this is talking about Christ. When Christ returns, Christ is going to rule over the whole house of Israel, man. And Christ sits on his father's throne. Christ sits on the throne of David. He's a descendant of King David, man. And that's why when you see references to David, it's talking about Christ who sits on the throne of King David. That's what it's talking about. Because it says his kingdom shall last forever and ever and ever. If you understand the Bible, King David's kingdom didn't last forever. How do you know that? Because we're in England right now, man. That's it. Justin Wells, so, if you can't answer that, if you can't comprehend that, then I don't know. There's nothing else I can do for you. So
okay, Justin Welsh. I hope that's quenched your thirst for the truth, because that was an excellent breakdown by Officer Dungabar, and that's this. That you're not going to get a different breakdown than that, and if you do, it's not the truth. So I hope that has quenched your thirst for the truth, Justin Welsh. Any more questions? Type them into the StreamYard. We'll do our best to get back round to you, or round to you. But we're in Ephesians 5 and 17. So we're going to read that again and get on with the topic. And remember, the topic of the class is we measure our culture on street talk and vain traditions, you blacks, Hispanics, and native Indians. So don't be ignorant or stupid. Ephesians 5 and 17. Read that.
Okay, Ephesians chapter 5 and verse 17. Wherefore be ye not unwise, but understanding what the will of the Lord is.
Wherefore be ye not unwise. Don't be stupid and don't be ignorant. Okay, read that second part, other one.
Wherefore be ye not unwise, but understanding what the will of the Lord is.
Wherefore be not unwise, but understanding what the will of the Lord is. Don't be dumb. Don't be stupid. Stop thinking you can measure who we are by how well you talk the fam gang talk. It's nonsense, and stop fooling yourself. Stop being unwise. Stop being stupid, dumb, and ignorant, you blacks, Hispanics, and native Indians. You can't measure your culture on how well you speak patois, Creole, native. You can't measure your culture on these things. It just doesn't work. You will live your entire life not knowing who you are. You will live your entire life blind, and you will live your entire life in this kingdom, this wicked ass kingdom, a walking zombie. The Bible says if you don't know you're Israel, you're dead. You're a walking zombie. And that's what you are up in that Christian church and in that Islamic mosque and any other goddamn denomination that our people are stuck up in and involved in and embedded in. Do you understand that? We can only measure who we are by knowing the oracles of the Most High God. And if it's not the Bible, if it's not the King James Version 1611, you blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, you're lost. We have these records for a reason. We have these records for a reason. So you won't be walking around talking nonsense about you're black, you're native, you're Hispanic, because you cook tortillas. You prep them and give them or sell them. You can't measure your culture on that. You can't look at your brother and call them an Uncle Tom or a white boy or a white sister because they can't speak Creole like you. They can't talk street talk like you. It's nonsense, Israel. It's vain. And it's not who we are. It's just not who we are. Get me Ecclesiasticus 9 and 15, Baba Kashar. So stop talking nonsense with fools as well. We're going to read about this in Ecclesiasticus 9 and 15. Okay? This is a law class, and we're going to have a look at some of the laws as well, which should cancel out why we behave the way we do. Okay? Yeah, why we behave the way we do. Read that for me, Baba.
Okay, Ecclesiasticus chapter 9 and verse 15. Let thy talk be with the wise.
Let thy talk be with the wise. Read.
And all thy communication in the law of the Most High.
So stop talking nonsense with fools. Stop it. Stop putting your brother and sister down. How about trying to learn these laws, statutes, and commandments? Okay? Stop telling yourself you're not black if you don't speak street slang. It's absolute nonsense. Read that again, Baba Kashar. Read it all the way through, other one.
Let thy talk be with the wise, and all thy communication in the law of the Most High. And let just men eat and drink with thee, and let thy glorying be in the fear of the Lord.
And let thy what?
Glorying be in the fear of the Lord.
Let thy glorying be in the fear of the Lord. And what is the fear of the Lord? Well, let's put it this way. The fear of the Lord is being wise. And how do you be wise? By keeping these laws, statutes, and commandments. Point blank and period. There is nothing else to it. Listen, I'm gonna show you a video, yeah? Because we believe that if you can't cook tacos, tortillas, rice and peas, jerk chicken, you must be some kind of Uncle Tom. Okay, so let's get a better understanding of what an Uncle Tom is. So we've got a couple of videos here. They're only short videos. We're going to have a quick look at them. So how do I share this other one?
Go back. So go back on your StreamYard.
Go back on my StreamYard. Just bear with me, audience.
No, click on your StreamYard. Go down to present.
Present.
Go to share screen.
Share screen.
Click on what video you want to edit to.
Okay, Uncle Tom. Let's see what an Uncle Tom really is. Share again, yeah?
Then I'll bring it to your page.
Okay. All right, audience, listen to this. This is what a real Uncle Tom is.
This country down, no one stood up to him. Nobody. Because he was black. You need to wake up.
My parents didn't teach me that I was a victim.
They can turn back voting rights. Didn't nobody donate to us the right to vote?
You was your house nigga. I didn't call you a nigga.
Oh, okay. That's a big difference.
You're Uncle Tom.
An Uncle Tom is somebody who has sold out by embracing the white man.
Uncle Tom,
Bedouins,
bootlicker,
black white supremacists,
chucking and jiving,
house Negro,
coon,
Uncle Tom,
coon.
Coon.
I have a coon award over there.
Raccoon of the Year award. Most black people don't believe that other blacks can be independent, free thinkers.
I believe the legacy and the ancestry of Black Americans is being insulted every single day. I will not pretend to be a victim in this country. I know that that makes many people on the left uncomfortable.
Racist, racial, racist,
Racism.
1,000 cuts of racism.
The liberal will try to control a black person through the concept of racism because they know that we are very proud, emotional people.
I never felt that because I was black or I was poor or a woman that I couldn't do something.
I grew up being told of my disadvantages, that this country is unfair to black people.
The ideology is implanted into you subconsciously to believe these things.
It's like a cancerous plague in the mind of Black Americans.
We're brainwashed to think,
Is it because I'm black? America's not ours, so we got shipped here. No, our blood is on this soil. We own this too.
There should be a pride that we have in the fact that this country was built by many great black men and women.
are you trying to say that this country does not specialize in racism and
So
bigotry?
long as black people continue to have their psyche filled by that nonsense, we won't have an awakening.
Uncle Tom. Okay, so according to our Judite brothers, Black America, that's what an Uncle Tom is.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Let's Teach channel where we
Hold on,
research
hold
interesting.
Okay, is that being shared as well? Is that on already?
Hold on, what do you stream now? No, it's not on. Is it on?
No.
You have to stop sharing the first one. So you'll click stop sharing at the top. Oh,
Okay,
then you go back to present.
okay.
So you go to the bottom, present again,
Present.
screen share. And then you click on the one that you want now.
Okay, but let's comment on that first one. So how do I get rid of
Click
this?
cancel.
Cancel.
Down. Next to where the share button.
Yeah. Okay, so Uncle Tom. So in a nutshell, and in the next video, it's going to be explained more graphically. Where? Click the screen icon in your address.
Your browser has what?
Has blocked your screen.
No, your screen should be all right. No, it's 12. It's 12.
Yeah, just check.
Yeah, it's 12.
Just check. Okay, so according to some opinions there, in so-called Black America, some of these individuals have given their breakdown of an Uncle Tom. Now, the next video we watch is going to give you a better insight to what an Uncle Tom exactly is, because an Uncle Tom was a person. He was an individual, and he was a character that came out. He was a produce of the slave trade, the transatlantic slave trade, which our people are more than familiar with, you blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. But in modern day terms, maybe the UK version of Uncle Tom slightly differs to the American version, but there's only one original Uncle Tom, and we're going to hear what it's about. It's interesting because we had leaders back in the day in the 60s, like Malcolm X, that used to use the terminology quite frequently. And that was towards people that he believed were sellouts, okay? Sellouts to so-called black people. But let's remember, Malcolm X himself was a sellout without even knowing it. You know, he turned to a religion that had nothing to do with our people and could never help save our people. But we're here in the ISUPK under the Commander General Johanna, giving our people the truth, trying to save our people, get our people off drugs, get our men to stop whoring out our women and whoring out themselves. You know, we teach the truth out of this Bible, that men shouldn't lay with men, that women shouldn't marry women. Dietary laws, stop eating shrimp, crab, lobster, pig. We teach to stop fornicating, stop lying. Stop telling yourself lies. We teach to start observing the Lord's high holy Sabbath and his high holy feast days. Get out of that Christian church. Stop celebrating Christmas, Easter, Valentine's Day, Father's Day, Mother's Day, birthdays. All these things that are abominable to the Lord God. All these things that are going to get you destroyed, you blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. And the topic tonight of tonight's law class, stop fooling yourself. Stop telling your brothers and sisters they're an Uncle Tom because they don't talk or cook like you. Stop measuring your blackness, your so-called Hispanicness, your so-called nativeness on how well you speak patois and Creole or street talk. How well you cook traditional Jamaican food, traditional Mexican food, traditional Puerto Rican food, Cuban food, Colombian food, Antiguan food, Brazilian food, Bayesian food, Trinidadian food. Stop it, Israel. This is not what makes you Israel. This is what makes you Israel. This is what makes you the seed of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Your heritage, and it's all recorded in here. This is what you need to know yourself, you blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. You don't need to know, you don't need to be able to cook tortillas or tacos or ackee and saltfish or brown stew chicken. You don't fry chicken. You don't need to know these things. If you do, okay, it's part of our modern day tradition, but it's not part of our salvation. So don't ever get it twisted, Israel. Don't ever get it twisted. You cannot measure, you cannot measure your culture on how good your street talk is, or how you can cook like your mom or your father or your grandparents did that came from the West Indies or came from Mexico. Or your native parents or native grandparents. Just because they did it, that doesn't mean you can measure your culture on that. You measure your culture on this, Israel. This is all you need. Okay, so let's have a look at the second video. Okay, this is going to explain in more detail. This is going to explain in more detail exactly what an Uncle Tom is. And this is what you've got to stop doing, Israel. This is what we have got to stop doing. It's just that madness and it's bizarre. So check this out.
Welcome to the Let's Teach channel, where we research interesting facts and share information on just about any topic. In a previous video, I talked about the senseless murder. Hey everybody, welcome to the Let's Teach channel, where we research interesting facts and share information on just about any topic. In a previous video, I talked about the senseless murder of Emmett Till. You should check that video out when you get a minute. In this video, I'll answer the question, who is Uncle Tom? Let's get started. First published on March 20th, 1895, the book Uncle Tom's Cabin by the abolitionist Harriet Beecher Stowe is largely considered to be one of the greatest American novels of all time. In fact, an article published by the Boston Morning Post the year that it was released even went so far as to claim that everybody in the country had either read it, was reading it, or was about to read it. According to popular lore, publishers had to keep 17 different printing presses running 24/7 just to keep up with the consumer demand for the book. In the United States alone, Uncle Tom's Cabin sold more than 300,000 copies and went on to be regarded as the best-selling novel of the 19th century. But as popular as this book might have been, many Black Americans have actually come to despise its titular character, Uncle Tom. So who exactly is Uncle Tom? In Uncle Tom's Cabin, Uncle Tom was a slave who, despite his circumstances, continued to live by his Christian convictions. Besides exhibiting bravery and an aversion to violence, he was also a good friend to a character known as Little Eva, who was the daughter of his slaveholder. In the end, however, he was whipped to death after he refused to disclose information regarding several runaway slaves. When the book was first published, Uncle Tom was perceived by the American public as a saintly figure who deserved nothing but the highest of praise. Harriet Beecher Stowe herself was lauded for portraying a slave as an actual human with profound thoughts and emotions, which was a depiction that had never been seen before at the time. As the decades passed, though, this perception of Uncle Tom changed. From a hero, many, especially Black Americans, began to see him as spineless, weak, and submissive. Many also criticized the kindness that he displayed towards white slaveholders, which was held to be unwarranted. Because of this, the name Uncle Tom became a derogatory term. To call someone this was to deeply insult them, implying that they weren't loyal to the people of their own race. For instance, the renowned civil rights activist Malcolm X claimed that the character should be perceived as a race traitor, while professional boxer Muhammad Ali taunted his opponents with the term whenever they refused to refer to him by his Muslim name. It's rather ironic to consider how the name Uncle Tom has evolved, given how Uncle Tom's Cabin was written as an anti-slavery novel. Even more ironic is the fact that the character was actually based on a real-life slave named Josiah Henson, who hailed from Maryland and used the Underground Railroad to gain his freedom. Harriet Beecher Stowe came to know about Josiah Henson after reading narratives from other slaves who had also escaped from the Underground Railroad. She then used these accounts to formulate her story's characters. While her protagonist has come to be criticized by many, experts claim that the hate isn't rooted in the author's depiction of him, but rather in how popular media has portrayed him throughout the years. According to Patricia Turner, a folklorist and a professor of African American Studies at the University of California, Davis, many African Americans don't hate the real story that Stowe wrote. The Uncle Tom character that she gives us is extraordinarily Christian. The climax of the story really comes when Uncle Tom is asked to reveal where two slave women are hiding, who had been sexually abused by their master. And he refuses. Knowing that he is going to be beaten to death, he refused to say where they are. And African Americans who have read the novel can appreciate what kind of heroism it took for a Black man to sign away his life to save two Black women. Unfortunately, the stage depictions don't include that part of the story. They grossly distort Uncle Tom into an older man than he is in the novel, a man whose English is poor, a man who will do quite the opposite, who will sell out any Black man if it will curry the favor of a white employer, a white master, a white mistress. It's that distorted character that is so objectionable to African Americans. Well, that's it for this video. What are your thoughts on Uncle Tom? Let's talk about it in the comment section down below. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. And hit that bell notification button so that you'll know whenever a new video has been uploaded. And remember, what's learned here leaves here. Share something you learned about Uncle Tom with a friend. See you later.
Okay, Israel. And how do I get out of that? Back to the StreamYard?
So he goes to stop sharing.
Where's
When Uncle Tom's Cabin was published in 1852.
Yeah, at the top.
Yeah.
Stop sharing. Yeah.
Josiah Nelson. So
Now you go to the StreamYard.
So Israel. Okay, so there you have it. Okay, so Uncle Tom comes from a real slave called Josiah Nelson. Okay, who was he was what we know as nowadays as a house Negro. He was a trusted Negro that lived in the house. And that's where the terminology Uncle Tom comes from. Because if you'd have been what we know as a field Negro that lived in the barn with the animals and the haystacks and wasn't allowed in the house, you wasn't trusted enough, you was just a field Negro that worked on the sugar plantation in the field, pulling sugar out of the ground, or the cotton fields, pulling cotton out of the ground, you was deemed a rebel. Yeah, but if you was a trusted Negro that lived up in the house like Josiah Nelson, yeah, you was deemed a house Negro, and you would have had favor from your slave master. You would have had extras, what we call in the UK perks. You understand that part? Okay, but even this so-called house Negro, which is where the terminology Uncle Tom comes from, even this so-called house Negro, he couldn't stand slavery, and he escaped to the north. You see that other one? Okay, so you got anything to add on that?
Right. While it is even in there, they said they don't tell the full story, so they just tell you half the story, and they've done the same thing with Pocahontas. So the same thing how they tell half the story. So what you'll find is a black version of Salah is Uncle Tom because they don't know the full story.
Khan.
A Native Americans version of Salah is Pocahontas because they don't know the full story.
Khan.
And you realize that the oppressor is the devil in both situations because he's told half a story on Pocahontas, half a story on the whole Uncle Tom thing. They make her like this man used to make sandwiches and was best friends with the slave man's daughter and obeyed every order and turned over black slaves and was one of those ones. They make it like it was a what's that man? That black man has got the grey hair and is the biggest. See, I almost called him an Uncle Tom just then. It's like it's rooted in the black people have been saying it for so long that you just say it. If you get what I mean. What's that man's name again? And he's always hugging the white people like Massa. He's dark skinned, he's got the white hair and he's old.
Is he a Judite or a Benjamite?
I think he's in one of the movies.
What, one of the slave movies?
Is it Uncle Ruckus? Is in one of the
I don't know.
movies.
If you're talking about Django Unchained, it's Samuel L. Jackson, is it not?
I've never watched Django in my life.
Django, Samuel L. Jackson is the Uncle Tom in Django Unchained. And Django, what's the brother's name in real life? What's the actor's name? I forgot the actor's name, but Samuel L. Jackson plays the house Negro. He's in charge of all the other Negroes, and he sleeps up in the house with his slave master. And Jamie Foxx is Django. He's the field nigger he's bought his freedom. He's been freed by a dentist, a European dentist that is a bounty hunter in the. He's gone to the southern states of America to find some outlaws, and he knows that these outlaws that are wanted for murder by the American government, the recognized American government in this time is not is not the Federation from the South, it's the Union from the North. So he's come from the North to the South to find these outlaws, and he knows that the plantation, one of them was an overseer on, was the plantation that Jamie Foxx, whose character is Django, he was a slave on that plantation. So he goes and gets this slave, Django, and buys his freedom, takes him everywhere with him on this bounty hunt to find these three brothers that have these outlaws that are wanted for murder. And that's where the killing spree starts. And what you've got in the movie is this one slave just killing as many Edomites as humanly possible. He goes on a rampage. Okay, but not to go off topic. Let's get back Ecclesiasticus 9 and 15. Let's get back on topic. So Uncle Tom, and we're gonna break this down in Ecclesiasticus 9 and 15 because it reminds me of the terminology of the Uncle Tom term, because for some reason there's something about you blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. You can't get this ideology out of your head that it's food and how we talk is how you measure your culture. And it's not in the Bible. That's our problem in the UPK. It's not in the Bible. And if it's not in the Bible, this shouldn't be in our spirit. We shouldn't be carrying this spirit with us. Not in this demonic kingdom. We've got enough obstacles. Do you see that other one? We've got more than enough obstacles to swerve without having to swerve our one another's stupidness and ridiculous comments about each other and just trying to hold each other back and pull each other down. Okay, so yeah, read that again for me, other one.
Ecclesiasticus chapter 9 and verse 15. Let thy talk be with the wise.
Let thy talk be with the wise. And who are the wise? The priests and prophets in the ISUPK under the command of General Johanna. Let your talk be with us. Come down. Whatever state, whatever county, whatever country you're in, we know we're scattered to the four corners. Get in one of the ISUPK schools. Yeah, learn this truth. That is getting with the wise. Read.
And all thy communication in the law of the Most High.
And all thy communication in the law of the Most High. Stop talking nonsense with fools. Stop telling yourself you're not black if you don't speak street slang. You're not Hispanic if you don't speak Creole. You're not native if you can't speak native. Stop this nonsense. Stop it. Look, if you're a Native American, you're from the tribe of Reuben or the tribe of Gad. It doesn't matter what your native brother, your black brother, your Hispanic brother or sister is telling you. You can't speak native. You're an Uncle Tom. That's nonsense. You should not be letting that kind of nonsense affect you. You should be in one of the ISUPK schools under the command of General Yohana and Salakia and learning the oracles of the Most High God, this book, our records. That's all that you need to know. You don't need to go and learn native. You don't need to go and learn patois. You don't need to go and learn Spanish. Spanish and patois is because of slavery. That's why we talk that's why we talk these languages. They're not of God. God doesn't care if you speak Spanish or patois. He doesn't give a damn. But what he does give a damn about is if you're trying to speak Lashawan Kodash, his holy tongue. If you're keeping these laws, statutes, and commandments, drop that and get me Leviticus 11:1. Because we've spoke about languages. We spoke about Uncle Tom. We've spoke about the law. We've got a dietary law, as we know. We go through this most weeks in the law class. Israel, we go through this most weeks. The dietary law is one of the most common laws in the Torah. Okay, and we can't get it right because we think, and listen, in the UK, the majority of Israelites are Benjamites. That's no secret amongst our people. And these Benjamites, our Benjamite brothers and sisters in the UK, believe that a lot of us, I'm not speaking, certainly not in the UPK. If you're in the truth, you know, you're pushing what I'm pushing. We push this together. If it's not in the Bible, we don't push it. And we push the dietary laws because it's the truth of the Most High God. These are the same laws that Moses pushed, the same laws that Jeremiah, Ezekiel, Daniel, Jesus the Christ. These are the same laws that our prophets and messengers pushed on our people. Okay? And we believe, a lot of our Benjamite brothers and sisters believe, if you can't cook ackee and saltfish, you're a chalk ice. If you can't cook jerk chicken and brown stewed chicken, you're an Uncle Tom. It's bizarre and it's nonsense. We're measuring our culture on street talk and vain traditions like the food that our parents taught us to cook that came from the West Indies. And that is bizarre. That is madness because it's not in the Bible and it's not of the Most High God. The book of Leviticus, chapter 11. Read that for me,
Leviticus chapter 11 and verse 1. And the Lord spake unto Moses and unto Aaron, saying unto them, speak unto the children of Israel.
Read that again from the top.
And the Lord spake unto Moses and to Aaron, saying unto them, speak unto the children of Israel, saying, these are the beasts which ye shall eat among all the beasts.
So here we've got Moses about to teach us, these are the beasts, the meats that we should eat. These meats were given us to the Most High God because they're holy. And they weren't shrimp, crab, lobster, or pork. Read on, other one.
Whatsoever part of the hoof and is cloven footed and cheweth the cud, among the beasts that shall ye eat.
Okay, so drop that and give me Deuteronomy 14:3. So the hoof and the cloven foot, if it doesn't pertain to these things, then you shouldn't be eating it. If the beast that you're cooking in your pot doesn't have these things, you shouldn't be eating it. If it doesn't chew the cud, you shouldn't be eating it. Okay? And the one thing the pig doesn't have. Read that again in Leviticus 11:1. Yeah, just go back and read about the hoof, just so that the audience get the right understanding of this.
Leviticus chapter 11 and verse 1.
No, read a little bit further down to the hoof.
You're on 7.
Can't.
All right, Leviticus chapter 11 and verse 7. And the swine, though he divide the hoof and be cloven footed, yet he cheweth not the cud. Okay, so the pig has 2/3 of what is required for it to be edible meat, but he doesn't chew the cud. So he's unclean to us. Now drop that and get me Deuteronomy 14:3. Okay, these meats that we're about to read about are holy. Anything that was given to us by the Most High God, I don't want to what? Anything that was given to us is a blessing. So what is a blessing? It's holy. It's separate. He's not giving it to the heathen nations. So as he separated us, a people, his people, he gave us certain meats to eat. And that's why these heathen, who were supposed to be taught the same laws as us, by us, and serve under us, they was wicked as hell. And that's why they are eating pig, pork, shrimp, crab, lobster as delicacies and in abundance to this day. But what's happened, Adawan? They've pushed this nonsense on us. So we're breaking the same laws that they do. Read that. The book of Deuteronomy chapter 14 and verse 3. Thou shalt not eat any abominable thing.
Thou shalt not eat any abominable thing. Pork, shrimp, crab, lobster. Read. But hold on. We're up. We're look, our Issachar brothers, our Benjamite brothers, our Judite brothers, our Ephraimite brothers, the northern and the southern kingdom. We're up in that church cooking curried prawns. We go to a Moabite shop and can you get crab from the Moabites? Do the Moabites cook crab? They certainly cook curried prawns. They cook prawns and shrimps in abundance, shrimp fried rice. And we're up in these heathen nations, and now we've inherited their foods and cooking them ourselves. It's just a madness, Israel. It's a madness. Read on.
Thou shalt not eat any abominable thing. These are the beasts which ye shall eat: the ox, the sheep, and the goat.
The ox, the sheep, and the goat. These are holy meats. Is lamb in there? The ox, the sheep. Yeah, the sheep, mutton. Okay, so these are holy meats. These are holy meats. This is a blessing if you've got lamb, mutton, goat, ox in your pot. You should give thanks, and if you was in this truth, this is what you'd be eating every day of your life on a regular. You would not be eating pork, shrimp, crab, and lobster. Okay, trust me. Holy meats are from the Most High God. Nowhere in the Bible does it say you're an abomination if you don't cook oxtail or curried goat. It says these meats are clean to eat, so stop telling yourselves we're not culturally aware of who we are because we don't cook curried goat. Stop it, Israel. This is how we're measuring our culture on street talk and vain traditions. It's just a madness. You get that other one? It's just a madness. Get me Romans 8:16. Let's see what Paul thinks about this matter, because you blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians stuck up in the Christian church. This is New Testament. This is the Apostle Paul's records, and you're supposed to believe in this. You claim to believe in the New Testament, but you only really believe what suits you and what you're taught out of the lying pastor's mouth. That's what you believe in. That's what you believe in. You don't believe in the oracles of the Most High God. You don't believe in these law, statutes, and commandments. So if the law, statutes, and commandments are not going to save you, tell me one thing, you blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians stuck up in that Christian church. What is?
Right.
If the law, statutes, and commandments are not going to save you, what is going to save you? I'd be really grateful if somebody could type in the answer to that. Any one of you Christians, any one of you blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians stuck up in that Christian church. Romans 8 and 16. Read that for me, Barbara.
Romans chapter 8 and verse 16. The Spirit itself beareth witness with our spirit.
The what?
The Spirit itself beareth witness with our spirit.
So the Spirit tells you if you are Israel or not. The Spirit tells you. The Spirit tells you if you're Israel. Not how good your patois is, or your French Creole or Spanish Creole, even whether you can cook tortillas, brown stew chicken, fried chicken, rice and peas. Just a nonsense, Israel. It's a nonsense. Look what we have come to. You see that other one? Read that again.
The Spirit itself beareth witness with our spirit that we are the children of God. And if children, then heirs of God, and joint heirs with Christ, if so be that we suffer with him, that we may be also glorified together.
What verse is that? Yeah, go back and read 16 for me again, other one. But Salakia.
All right, the Spirit itself beareth witness with our spirit that we are the children of God.
So what is that spirit? That is the Spirit of the Most High God. And what does that Spirit bear witness with? Our spirit. His vibe bears witness with our vibe. And how does that bear witness? If we're keeping these laws, statutes, and commandments. Because if we're keeping these laws, statutes, and commandments, guess what? We're on the same page as the Most High God. We're on that same frequency. Do you understand? And not that frequency level. We're just on the same frequency. We could never be on a level with the Most High God. He's the Most High for a reason. But the Spirit beareth witness with our spirit. That's the Most High God. The Spirit of the Most High God bears witness with how we vibe, our vibration. And that depends on whether you're keeping these laws, statutes, and commandments. Simple as that. That we are the children of God.
Right.
So don't you think your sons, your daughters would be a little bit like you blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indian fathers? Don't you think their spirit would bear witness with your spirit? Their vibe would bear witness with your vibe. And that's what this precept is talking about. This is what the Apostle Paul is talking about here. Read that again, Baba Kashan.
Romans chapter 8 and verse 16. The Spirit itself beareth witness with our spirit that we are the children of God.
There you go. It's self-explanatory. Drop that and get me Deuteronomy 28. No, get me Deuteronomy 10 and 20. So the Spirit, this is that. Just hold it for me, Baba Kashar, the one. Okay, so 8 and 15. What was it? No. Ecclesiasticus. What did we just read? 8 and Romans 8 and 16. Salakia. So the Spirit itself beareth witness with our spirit that we are the children of God. Okay, so you will, if when you first hear this truth, yeah, if the Spirit bears witness, if it gets your attention straight away, there's something in you. There's something, you know, you're Israel. If you're one of these blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians that the Most High God's not dealing with, you're never going to understand this. You could hear this 1,000 times in one day. You will not get this. And guess why? You're being blocked. This is not for you. This is not for you. The Most High God is not dealing with you. And you're going to ask the question, why? Well, you have to study and know why, because the Spirit doesn't bear witness with you. And if the Spirit doesn't bear witness, there's a reason for that. There's a reason for that. Okay, so where are we? Deuteronomy 10 and 20. That reason You're going to find out, you blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, in that last hour. Okay? You're going to find out. But as we've just read in Romans, the Spirit bears witness. So if you understand this truth when you first hear it, the chances are that you're being awakened out of your slumber by the Most High God. Okay? You're being awakened. And it's a process. Because when that spirit enters you, you need to start studying from that stage. You can't expect like magic, everything's going to happen for you and fall at your feet. Do you understand? You've got to start studying. When the Spirit bears witness, that is the time for you, blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, to get into one of the ISUPK schools around the world and start studying. Start studying and get to a level where you can sit and stand and do street camp and teach this truth, the law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High God to his people. Deuteronomy 10 and 20.
The book of Deuteronomy chapter 10 and verse 20. Thou shalt fear the Lord thy God, him shalt thou serve, and to him shalt thou cleave and swear by his name.
Read that again.
Thou shalt fear the Lord thy God, him shalt thou serve, and to him shalt thou cleave and swear by his name.
Thou shalt fear the Lord thy God, him shalt thou serve, and him shalt thou cleave and swear by his name. Cleave to God, not to street slang, not to patois, not to tortillas, tacos, ackee and saltfish, jerk chicken. Don't cling to these ridiculous, vain traditions. Okay? Cling to the Most High God and cling to his word, the oracles, our records, what he gave us. As long as you keep this close to your heart, you will always know who you are, Israel. And you will always be able to learn, study, and keep these laws, statutes, and commandments. Okay? Cleave to God, not to street slang, Hispanicness, so-called blackness, or your so-called nativeness on how well you know the Most High's oracles and whether you keep the laws, statutes, and commandments. That's the only thing that's going to save you. That's the only thing that's going to make you know who you are. Not these vain traditions, Israel. Not these vain traditions, you blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. Read that again for me, Baba Kashar.
Deuteronomy chapter 10 and verse 20. Thou shalt fear the Lord thy God, him shalt thou serve, and to him shalt thou cleave and swear by his name.
And swear by his name. And how do you swear by his name, Adawan?
How do you swear by his name?
Yeah.
By promising to do what he tells you to do, and all those kind of things.
By what?
Honoring what the Lord tells you to do.
Honoring his promise, honoring his covenant, honoring his contract. What the Most High God tells you to do, roll your goddamn sleeves up and get on with it. That's it. Come out of this street culture nonsense and these vain traditions. He doesn't care about that. He doesn't care about that. Okay, he doesn't care about it. You get me Deuteronomy 6 and 7.
The book of Deuteronomy chapter 6 and verse 7.
Okay, we're flying through these precepts at the minute. We're flying through these precepts. And one thing I want you to remember, Israel. Yeah? Okay? We have the Most High God there to cleave to for a reason.
Right.
Okay? We have the Most High God there to cleave to a reason. So you being up in that Christian church and cleaving to your vain traditions is profanity to the Most High God. He doesn't care about them and he doesn't care about you. You're giving him the will to block you. Okay? And we're not even touching on regeneration here, on what you did in your prior life. Because if you're living in this kingdom again, this was your chance to get it right. That's why you was brought back to repent. You was redeemed. And we're living under a grace period. So what more do you want, Israel? What more do you need, you blacks, Hispanics, and native Indians? The Most High God. And who is he? Who is he? He is our Father. He is our Father, and his oracles alone is the very thing that's going to make you or break you. Do you understand this? It's the same thing. It's the very thing that's going to make us or break us, Israel. He really doesn't care how you sound when you talk. Do you really think you can measure your blackness on how good your patois is? Are you really that vain, Israel? Do you think that? You Benjamites. Do you really believe that? Issachar, Ephraim, Manasseh, do you really believe, are you really vain enough to believe that the Most High God cares how good your Spanish Creole is? Do you really, really believe that? And if you do believe that, you're going to have a rude awakening. You are going to have a rude awakening. You've got big problems, Israel, and you're not going to get to the bottom of them problems until you walk through 394 Lodge Road, the ISUPK school in Hockley, Birmingham, under the command of General Yohanna, and you learn who you are. And that's the bottom line. There's nothing else to this, nothing complicated. It's not as complicated as your Christian pastor will have you believe, as your Islamic imam will have you believe, as your Rastafarian elders would have you believe. It's not that complicated. It's pretty much black and white. You get yourself in one of the ISUPK schools and you start learning the oracles of the Most High God, the power. That's it. Point blank and period. There's nothing else or nothing less to this. Nothing more, nothing less. It's as simple and as straight as that. And if you can do that, you're going to see your life improve. You're going to see everything about you in this Babylonian kingdom improve 100%. You're going to be keeping high holy feast days with your brothers, sisters. You're going to see true brotherhood. You're going to learn these laws, statutes, and commandments. You're going to come back into the realm of the Most High God, the one true God, the God of Israel, the God of the Bible, not the God of the Christian church, not the God of the Islamic mosque. And when you come back and the Spirit bears witness, you're going to feel so much better about yourself. Them days of thinking you can measure your blackness, your so-called Hispanicness, your so-called nativeness on how good you speak street talk, the native language, so-called Hispanic language, Spanish Creole, French Creole, you Levites in Haiti or Haiti, whichever way you pronounce the island. You Jamaicans, Antiguans, Trinidadians, Bajans, St. Kitts and Nevis, Grenada, British Guyana, Barbuda, speaking your West Indian patois. The sooner you stop believing that is how you can measure your blackness, your nativeness, and your Hispanicness, the better it will be for you. Because this is bizarre, Israel, and it has to stop, and it has to stop now. The Most High God is going to judge you alone on your works. And to start your works, you're going to need to know his law. And you find the law in the Torah, the first 5 books. That's it. There's nothing else to this. Point blank and period. You understand? There's nothing else to this. Okay? Let's get that. Deuteronomy 6 and 7.
The book of Deuteronomy chapter 6 and verse 7. And thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children.
And thou shalt what?
Teach them diligently unto thy children.
And who shall teach them diligently to your children? This is the parents. What will we teach? What's this? Deuteronomy 6. Deuteronomy 6 and 7. I think we can jump up a verse. Just hold on for me there, other one. 1 second. Let me catch up with you. Deuteronomy 6 and 7. Okay, let's start at. Let's Let's start from verse 3.
The book of Deuteronomy chapter 6 and verse 3. Hear therefore, O Israel.
Listen, Israel, you blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, read.
And observe to do it.
And observe to do it. To do what? What you're told by the Most High God, of course. Read.
That it may be well with thee.
That it may be good for you, well with thee. Read.
And that ye may increase mightily.
And that your life will improve 100%. We just spoke about it, Israel. You blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. Read that last bit again.
Hear therefore, O Israel, and observe to do it, that it may be well with thee, and that ye may increase mightily.
That you may increase mightily. You keep these laws, statutes, and commandments. Your life's going to get a whole lot better, Israel. 100% a whole lot better. And that is that. Read on.
Might as fear the Lord thy God. Hold on, where was I? Hear therefore, O Israel, and observe to do it, that it may be well with thee, and that ye may increase mightily, as the Lord God of thy fathers hath promised thee, in the land that floweth with milk and honey.
And what is that land? That land is Israel, the land that was promised to us. Read on.
Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord.
The Lord our God is one Lord. That blows Jehovah right out of the Christian church. That verse blows Allah right out of the Islamic mosque. Read on. Salakia, read that again.
Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. And thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thine heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy might.
So he's one Lord. There's only one true God, the God of Israel, the God of this Bible, the God of you blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. But you prefer to dishonor him. Staying up in that Christian church, measuring your culture on how good your street talk is and your vain traditions, how good you can cook ackee and saltfish, how good you talk the fam gang talk. It's a bag of nonsense, Israel. Read on.
And these words which I command thee this day shall be in thine heart.
And these words, the Most High's law, our covenant, our contract with him will be in your heart. You get this, Israel? It will be in your heart. Read.
And thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children.
And thou shalt what?
Teach them diligently unto thy children.
And thou shalt teach them diligently. Another word for diligently could be relentless. You teach them relentlessly to your children. Okay? So teach your kids the Torah. Teach the Torah to your kids. The Torah is the laws. The Torah is the law, statutes, and commandments. There's 316. And the only ones we are not ordained to keep today in this grace period are what, other one? The sacrificial laws, the laws of sacrifice. All the other laws we have to keep. Okay, we don't have to keep measuring our culture on street talk, on vain traditions. Okay, we don't have to keep mocking each other and calling our brothers and sisters Uncle Toms and bounties and coconuts because they can't speak Creole. They can't speak Native American. They can't cook tacos, tortillas. We do not need to be doing this, Israel. This is not what's going to save us. It's right here. It's right here in Deuteronomy 6 and 7. It's right here. Read that again, other one.
The book of Deuteronomy chapter 6 and verse 7. And thou shalt teach them diligently.
And thou shalt teach them diligently. Who? Our children. As Moses was told by the Most High God to teach this to the 12 tribes of Israel in the wilderness out of the captivity of the Africans, the Egyptians, Pharaoh, and to pass this on throughout our generations, to teach these laws, statutes, and commandments throughout our generations, right up to this day. These laws still count today. Without these laws, we don't have a covenant. Have you thought about that, you blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians? Without these laws, we have no vow with the Most High God. We have no oath. Do you really think you're stuck up in that Christian church, banging that tambourine, holding hands with every goddamn nation under the sun, singing hallelujah, Jesus is coming back to save us all? Do you really think that's what's going to save you? Because guess what? It's not. It can't help you, and it's not going to save you. Read that again, other one.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 6 and verse 7. And thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children, and shalt talk of them when thou sittest in thine house, and when thou walkest by the way, and when thou liest down, and when thou risest up.
There you go. When thou liest down, this is forever. When you lie down, when you rise up. Teach Torah to your kids. Teach it. Teach it diligently. Teach it every day. You parents, you blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, you've got a responsibility to learn this truth. You've got a responsibility to be in one of the ISUPK schools under the command of General Yana and teach this diligently to your children. Teach the Torah to your kids, first and second generation natives, blacks, so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. This applies to you because your parents were born with their traditions that were born out of slavery. Yeah, we were all in slavery, you so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. We are the produce of the slave trade, of the so-called white man's slave trade. All this was born out of slavery. And you can talk as much patois as you want, but how about putting that amount of effort into learning, speaking Hebrew, the ancient Paleo Hebrew? We've spoke about this earlier in the class. Your real language, the language of the Bible. It's like we don't want to know who we are. And guess what? The Most High might be blocking you. The Most High might be blocking you. But if you're alive in this kingdom, don't you think you should try to save yourself? Don't you think you're obligated to your children to teach this Torah and pass this on throughout the generations? We've all got responsibilities, Israel. And if you're in this truth, you will know your responsibility. Like the priests and prophets of the Most High God in the ISUPK under the command of General Yohana, our responsibility is to push this truth 7 days a week, 4 weeks of the month, 12 months of the year, for the rest of our life until our King returns. Hamashiach Yahushai. And there's no getting away from that. That's what we do. There's no compromise. There's no compromise. When we see wisdom, and when we hear wisdom, we snatch it and embrace it. And we study hard here in the school. We study diligently every day so we can bring our people, you blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, this truth. And you'll stop this nonsense and stop measuring your culture on street talk and vain traditions, because it's nonsense, Israel, and it's nothing to do with us. Nothing whatsoever to do with us. There's one last precept in Deuteronomy 28. Let's see if I can find it. Do you know where let's have a look. Deuteronomy 28. Just give me a second, bear with me. Okay, we know Deuteronomy is a law book. Read Deuteronomy 28 and 1 for me, other one, please. Baba Kasha.
Book of Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 1. And it shall come to pass.
Okay, it will happen. This Moses is telling us this will happen. Read.
If thou shalt hearken.
If thou shalt listen diligently, this word diligently again, relentlessly, read.
Unto the voice of the Lord thy God.
Unto the power, unto the voice of the power, the Creator, our Father, Yahweh. Read.
To observe and to do all his commandments.
To observe and to keep this law. Not to measure your culture on how good your fam gang street talk is and your vain traditions. To keep his law, the commandments, and not 10 commandments like our pastors push in the Christian church. There's 613 laws minus the laws of sacrifice, the sacrificial laws. So there's plenty of studying to be getting on with in the school. You blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians in the ISUPK school under the command of General Yohana. There's so much studying, so much learning you can be getting on with. You're wasting your time up in that church. Read on.
Unto the voice of the Lord thy God to observe and to do all his commandments, which I command thee this day, that the Lord thy God will set thee on high above all nations of the earth.
So, what is our job? To emulate him. To emulate God. To keep his laws, statutes, and commandments. Okay? We know what we know what the Most High God's about. Okay? Imagine you could emulate 0.5% of what he is. You'd make a damn good Israelite. Don't you think so, Adawan? You would make a damn good Israelite. And how do you emulate the Most High God? By emulating his son. His son walked this earth. By looking at how Christ lived his life, we can get a vague understanding of what the Most High God's about. Plus that spirit bears witness. Plus we have his oracles. Plus we have his laws, statutes, and commandments. So don't nobody tell me that they don't know God and they don't feel God because you're stuck up in that Christian church. You're never going to know God. If you're in the ISUPK under the command of General Yohana, you know exactly who the Most High God is, and you feel that spirit. You're in that spirit every day of your life. The spirit of brotherhood, the spirit of true love, the spirit of obedience. Okay, and you're keeping the laws, statutes, and commandments, and you're not measuring your culture, our culture, on street talk and vain traditions that we've inherited from slavery, from the slave master, from the oppressor. Okay, and with that, Israel, I'm going to call the class. Give it up. I'm going to hand the class over to Officer Dungabar for the security announcements.
We had the ISUPK started at 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York. Rule for new brother and sister. When the new brother or sister comes into the school, they are off limits for 6 months. They are to be saluted only. They are here to shed themselves of the world. If they need transportation, the teacher will arrange it. After 6 months, if a brother or sister has an interest in a particular person, he or she must get permission from the head to speak to a brother or sister. There's another 6 months in which the brother and sister will call each other. After this 6 months period, the brother and sister will get permission from the head to marry. Tithe, which is a commandment. Numbers chapter 18 and verse 21. And also Malachi chapter 3 and 8 through 10. But Aishra means 10th in the Hebrew. 10% of every penny of any increase the Lord gives you, give to treasury department or the teacher. Priest fund, free will offering for priests, not mandatory, whatsoever amount you would like to give. We got the Feast of Trumpets, September 15th. We're going to keep that in 394 Lodge Road, B185PW. So that's not this Friday, it's next Friday, the Feast of Trumpets. Also, after that, we also have the Day of Atonement. After we have the Day of Atonement, you have the opening of the Feast of Tabernacles, and the week at the closing of the Feast of Tabernacles. So this year, it all comes around back to back. So pay attention to all of those. And all Akim and Aqua, check the bulletin board in the hallway. If anyone wants to be a trooper in the school, start wearing all black boots, shirt, pants, headbands, and scarf. All right, with that, we're going to stand. We're going to give the teacher one courtesy salute. All right, men of Israel, I Madjam. I Madjam Shabbat. I Madjam. Barak. Yahweh Shem Yahshua Barakafah.
Yehovah Shim Yahushai Barakatam.
Yad Yam Matah. Dismissed.
Shalom Israel. Oda Akyam Wa Akwatian. Yehovah Shim Yahushai Barakatam. Salakia. Yehovah Shim Yahushai Barakatam. Yoshem Wash. Yoshemai Ladaba Hashim Yahushai. See you next week, Lord Allah. Most High in Christ, Israel.